Hello, so I'm Veronica Reynolds, and I have a fatty liver, or had a fatty liver. I no longer have a fatty liver, and I was diagnosed with that when I attended the Love Your Liver roadshow at Milton Park in October 2022. I saw the Love Your Liver unit was coming to our workplace, and very sadly, my brother had passed away from liver cancer in about 2.5 years ago. And so I'd just been a bit more aware about liver and liver disease generally. And I thought it would be a good idea to go and get checked out. So I went to the Love Your Liver unit for a liver check. I knew a little bit about liver disease. I'd kind of always associated it with, heavy drinkers and people kind of who abuse their bodies really. But I didn't, and I knew a little bit about liver cancer because of my brother's condition, but I wasn't really that aware of other conditions of the liver or that they might ever affect me in any way. I didn't associate myself with being at high risk. So when I attended the unit, we were first given a fairly long questionnaire to look at and asked all about lifestyle and foods and diet and drinking patterns. And I answered that, and I was feeling quite smug because I like to think I had quite a healthy diet. I mean, I did always have like a bit of a sweet tooth, but I felt my diet was pretty healthy. I don't drink excessively at all, and I just thought I was fairly healthy. So I went through the questionnaire, answered all of that, and then I was called into the booth to have my FibroScan done. The nurses who are carrying out the scans are fantastic. They're so professional, so supportive. If you've got any fears about going, then you don't need to have any fears because it's extremely well run. So when we first went into the unit, we were given some leaflets and some documentation about keeping a liver healthy. And again, I kind of looked at it and thought, well, that's all right. That's not me. I'm pretty healthy. I have a fairly varied diet. I don't drink excessively. So I looked at it, but it was more of a cursory glance, really. I'd always prided myself on being very active. And whilst I knew I was overweight 2.5 years ago, I didn't think that that would be affecting my liver. So I kind of didn't really pay too much attention to it, although I was quite surprised by some of the focus on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which I was aware of, but again, I didn't think it would apply to me. So I got up on the couch, and you just sort of pull your jumper up a bit, and they apply some gel, and it's a bit like going for any ultrasound scan. And then they place a scanner on you, and they take several readings in the area of your liver. It's completely painless, it's just a ping. And it took a little while to do that and to find my liver and find the area under the ribs. But anyway, completed the scan, and then the operator sat me down and said, "Oh, your reading is quite high. Do you think you know why that might be?" And then asked me about drinking. I said, "Well, I don't really drink. I might have, certainly within the guidance of 14 units a week." So I was a bit of a loss, really. And then when I stopped to think about it, I thought, actually, having looked at that leaflet, I probably do have quite a lot of fat in my diet. And so I was shocked, actually. I was in complete shock. I never expected my reading to be that high. And it's explained to me that a reading that high, they would refer me to my GP for further tests. As I say, I always thought I had a quite healthy diet, lots of fresh fruit and veg. But actually, when I looked at it in more detail, I realised, I would have a pastry in the morning, and quite often, if I had a biscuit, I'd end up sitting there and eating the whole pack in front of the TV. But because I was eating healthy meals, I didn't think too much about it. And because I was very active and doing quite a lot of exercise, I thought I would be fine. But yeah, it was a surprise to me. And then after the initial shock, I thought, I've got to do something about this. And I just decided overnight to really look at everything in my diet. And I realized just how much I could cut out. So when I went to see my GP, he had heard about fibroscans. He was very up to date on everything. He said, "Yeah, that this is quite high reading, and I've seen a few of these recently. And the best thing we can do with you is refer you to a liver specialist. to take another look at it, make sure there's nothing sinister going on, and to see what we're really dealing with. Um, I got referred pretty much straight away. Uh, it was actually a further 8 weeks before I got to see the liver specialist and go for a liver scan. And in that time, I had lost quite a lot of weight already. The scan was sort of borderline. They weren't sure if it was fatty liver. It wasn't. It wasn't as the scan wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be, given my reading. But I had by then really focused on reducing fats in my diet quite a lot. And then after that, they referred me for another FibroScan at the hospital, and that took place about 3 months after my first FibroScan in the Love Your Liver unit. And at that FibroScan, the operator said to me, "I'm surprised to see you here because your FibroScan reading is well within the norm." And she said, "It's unusual. Normally these roadshows are pretty accurate." And she asked me if I'd done anything different. And I said, "Well, I have lost nearly 10 kilos." And she said, "Well, that explains it. You've done exactly what we would want you to do, which is lose 10% of your body weight. And that obviously has made a huge impact on the fat around your internal organs and your liver, which has brought them back into the normal range." So I was delighted at that and really pleased that sort of effort had paid off. But I don't think I would have found the motivation to lose that weight and really start to eat healthily if it hadn't been for that initial FibroScan and the shock of that initial reading. I think the shock really made me sit up and think. And I knew I had to do something fairly radical and lose a significant amount of weight to make a difference to my liver. So, but the fact that I'd had that result gave me the motivation to really look at my diet and switch to a healthy diet. Not go on a diet as such, but just replace any unhealthy foods with healthy options. And that's what I've been doing really for the last 4 or 5 months. So it was a complete radical change in my approach to food and the way I viewed food. And now my diet is predominantly plant based. I aim to try and have as much of a diversity in the plants that I eat every day. And I just avoid really any fats. I don't miss it at all now. I thought it would be impossible to live without butter and without pastries and biscuits and cakes. In fact, yesterday somebody bought a big box of donuts into the office, and I looked at it and I thought, I don't want to put that in my body. I know what that's going to do to me now. I've seen that FibroScan result, and I don't want to go back down that route anymore. And it was very easy to resist, actually. But again, I think it was the shock of understanding what was going on inside my body that has given me that motivation to resist those kind of foods now. In fact, I'm still losing a bit of weight. I could do with losing another 3 kilos to be really within a very healthy weight. But what's interesting is that my I measure my body fat percentage, and that has continued to go down, even if when my weight has plateaued in the last few weeks, my body fat percentage is still going down. I thought I felt healthy and well, and again, because I was very active, I cycled to work and do walk regularly. I thought I felt well, but when I started to really change my diet and lose the weight, I realised I wasn't feeling well, and I hadn't been feeling well for quite a long time, either physically or mentally. And I think just getting back in control of my diet has given me a massive mental boost. I was very depressed after my brother died, and I felt kind of almost not like giving up, but like I was getting that age where life was coming to an end, and I was quite content to just sort of grow old and fat and you know become a grandma. And now I kind of think, actually, no, I've still got lots of life left, and I want to do lots of things, and I find I've got so much more energy. I'm doing loads more than I used to do. I'm not getting so tired. I'm sleeping better. I don't get. I used to get quite a lot of, upset tummies and things like that. I don't get any of that anymore. I just feel really healthy and really well and full of energy and mentally bright and kind of happy. I really recommend people go and get their liver checked if they get the opportunity. It's just a great privilege to have that insight into what your body's doing, and I hope that that you don't get a high reading. But if you do, know that you can do something about it before it gets too late. Because I think that was the thing that really shocked me, is that this was happening inside me, and I had really no idea, and it was slowly killing me. For want of a better phrase. So I'm eternally grateful to the colleague who talked me into going. I was a bit nervous because of my brother's situation and having had liver cancer, but I'm so glad she talked me into it. And I thank her pretty much every day. I say, thank you. You know, actually, I've got to this point thanks to you making me go. So, yeah, I recommend anyone goes to it if they get the opportunity. I think my advice is that, you know, it's great that you've got that diagnosis when you have, before it's too late, and there is a lot you can do about it, and it doesn't have to be hard or difficult to do that. You just need to recognize that you've been given another chance, really, to look at your lifestyle and make a difference. So yeah, my advice is, you know, have a look at your diet, be honest with yourself, and find a plan that works for you. I mean, you know, there are a million and one diets out there. I'm not a great believer in diets as such, but I think, you know, just understanding what we mean by healthy eating, recognizing where the pitfalls are in terms of that ultra processed food, which is everywhere, you know, every ready meal, every takeaway food. And I'm not saying never have that, but you know, that's for me is a treat I have in very small quantities occasionally now. But you know, that was probably the bulk of my diet beforehand. So, you know, recognizing where that unhealthy food is coming from, and substituting it for other things, and being adventurous and just looking at different foods, going to different shops, different supermarkets, and finding lots of healthy alternatives.